Right, so good day everyone. No? So in today's lesson, we are going to have um, some focused discussion no, on the value added tax, right? And we are going to discuss who are the VAT taxpayers, no? Ano ang parang qualifications para maging VAT taxpayer ikaw, and ano ang parang forms na gamiton in filing the value added tax, right? So okay, so sige. Okay, so now let's start on definition or on the definition of the value added tax. No, ano bala ang value added tax? Although most of you no already know what is a value added tax, diba? Kay kung magkadto ka sa mall, no, magkadto ka sa mga big nga mga stores nga gabakal ikaw, dira mismo sa resibo nimo naka-include no ang ginatawag na value added tax, right? So the value-added tax no covers all vatable sales of goods, properties, services, or lease of properties by VAT taxpayers. Okay, so vatable sales or receipts are from sources other than number one, exempt sales, no, and receipts from services specifically subject to percentage tax. Okay, so we have already discussed no nga once ka nag-start ikaw sang parang business, you are required no to file a business tax, and duha mo lang ng options mo no in terms of the business taxation. You are either a percentage taxpayer or a value added taxpayer, no? Kung so may threshold no in order to know if you are already part sa ginatawag na value added taxpayers. Okay, so who are VAT taxpayers, no? Letter A, no? First, a VAT registered persons. When we say a VAT registered persons, these are subject to VAT, no? Even if its annual sales do not exceed the VAT threshold. All right? Later, no, mabalaan nyo man nga it does not require, no, to be part of that threshold para matawag ikaw ng VAT taxpayers, because the BIR gives ng options no to business tax na so mga businesses no nga to choose value added tax, kasi there are pros and cons no in registering into VAT. Okay, so may mga tao ya or may mga business yang nga nag-register na nga daan VAT upon opening their business because they are expecting no nga ang ila sales magadako within the year. So the BIR gives them some option no to file as a VAT taxpayer. Okay? The second one is a VAT registrable persons, no? Ano ang VAT registrable persons? Or those whose sales or receipts exceeded the VAT threshold without registering as VAT taxpayers, no? And inang mga VAT registrable persons, mga ano pa na, wala pa sila naglapaw na sila sa threshold pero parang wala pa sila nag-register, right? And there is a tendency nga mabalaan ni BIR na naglapaw ka na sa threshold, no? Kasi it is required talaga, no? You are required to file a value added tax nga category if nag-exceed ka na sa threshold. And if wala ikaw nag-ubra sina or wala maski nag-exceed ka na sa 3 million and wala ka nag-register as VAT, no? May mga sanctions na nga ginahatag si BIR sa mga businesses nga mina, no? Ariyo, without the benefit of an input tax credit, kasi sa inang input tax amo na siya inang mga purchases no nga gina-credit no to reduce the output VAT. Okay, so kung minanabalan BIR nga wala ikaw nag-file or nag-convert into a value added taxpayer, mostly sina tagaan kanila sanctions, and they will require you to pay as a value added tax without the benefit of that input tax credit. Okay, so next, the VAT threshold. Na mo sa nga balik ko kagina nga may certain amount, certain limit on or threshold no on determining if you are already a VAT taxpayer. Okay, so first is the general threshold. This is the basis of all businesses nga convert into VAT. Kaya isa ni ang special threshold, though gamay man lang na sila no mga franchisee no, mga grantees of radio or television like the ABS-CBN, GMA, no, amo man na sila, the radio pagid, alright. Pero the rest of the value-added taxpayers, may ara sila threshold nga 3 million, alright. 3 million is only applicable nung nag-train law na, okay. But before, no, before the train law, these are the threshold. This is the threshold. Your gross sales, no, kapag nag-exceed ka 1,919,500, no, you are automatically required to file as a value-added taxpayer, no. Pero tungod sa train law, no, gin-increase nila na to 3 million. Okay? So just remember that, no. And kung pamakuton ka mo kung saan o nag-start, no, in case sabi, no, sa board examination na ang date sa pag-file of the value-added tax is before January 1, 2018, no, edi automatically dire ka mo ma-base. Pero January 1, 2018 onwards, pag-start sa train law, no, 3 million ang threshold. Right? So next is the special threshold, 10 million. No, for ano lang na, franchise grantees of radio or television. Next, optional VAT registration, no. So taxpayers below the threshold can voluntarily register as VAT taxpayers siling ko kagina na. Such option is subject to the 3-year lock-in period, no, and the taxpayer is precluded to have his VAT registration revoked until the lapse of 3 years, no. Anong function sine? So for example, nag-start ikaw business and you are expecting, no, nga ang imong sales, no, kasi ang 3 million is gross sales, ha, gross sales. You are expecting, no, nga maga-exceed ka sa 3 million nga gross sales. So gintagaan nag-opt ikaw, no, to file as a VAT registered person or VAT registered taxpayer. So kung ginobra mo na, hindi mo na siya maislan, no, naglapaw ka man or wala sa threshold nga 3 million, as long nga ara ka sa 3-year lock-in period, right, sa 3-year nga lock-in period, okay, so hindi ka pwede magbalik into a percentage tax unless, no, natapos na ang imo nga lock-in period. Okay? But if within the 3-year lock-in period nag-exceed ikaw 3 million, madulaan ka na benefit, no, on returning into a percentage taxpayer. Okay? So just remember that, right? Next, VAT taxpayers with mixed transactions. So it must be noted that despite the VAT registration, VAT shall apply only to the VATable sales or receipts. No? His non-VATable sales or receipts remains exempt from VAT. For example, imo operation, both ka may ara ka sang exempt and may ara ka sang VATable nga mga products. No? In recording that, no, you distinguish which is VATable, which is not. All right. So the exempt sales remain to be exempt, while the receipts specifically subject to percentage tax are subject to percentage tax, no? Or the only exception to this is when the taxpayer opted to have the VAT applied to these non-VATable sales or receipts. Continue man sa Japan, no? Nga maging, kung for example, VAT registered ka, then may ara ka exempted or percentage tax, specifically nga tax rate, continue na sila as exempt, no? Unless si taxpayer mismo magambal nga hindi tanan na lang na sila i-vatable. So dra sila i-consider as part of the output nga VAT. All right? Next, the value-added tax model. Okay? Simple mo lang, no? Output less the input equals the VAT payable. No? Output VAT, it represents I'm sorry. Okay, so the output VAT represents the sales, right? While the input VAT represent the purchases and expenses. Okay? Take note, no? Before we can claim the output and the input VAT, no? It should be recorded into a receipt, no? Dapat may resibo. All right? Hindi ka maka-claim input VAT if number 1, wala invoice, wala resibo, no? Number 2, ang imo nga purchaser o purchases or ang imo nga supplier is a non-VAT taxpayer, you cannot claim input VAT. Okay? Tandaan niyo na. If your supplier is not registered as a VAT taxpayer, you cannot claim the input VAT on that. Okay? The same with expenses, no? Purchases and expenses dalada sa input VAT. Okay, may already tax credits, all right? So tax credits, it can be from withholding, no? Withholding taxes from the government. Usually ang VAT tax credit mo lang isang sa withholding, no? Or kung mayroon ka sa PEZA, so i-deduct mo na siya da. Okay? Given, no, na may supporting documents ka on claiming the tax credit. Sa withholding dapat may mga form 2307 ka, no, in order to claim that. 2307 nga naka-include ang for VAT, okay, for value added tax. Okay, so next, the output VAT, right? What is an output VAT? So again, the output VAT is the VAT on vatable sales or receipts, okay? So the output VAT is presumed passed on by seller on his sales or receipts, no? Your sales or ang mga selling price, dapat kuno ginudugangan mo na siya sang VAT, no? That's why ang tawag sa VAT is an indirect tax, kay gina-shift, no, ni seller into kay buyer ang mga value added tax, no, na ginabayad for the BIR. And sa consumption tax, you know, na-discuss naton ang reason kung nga man gina-shift, okay, kay ang business tax is considered as consumption tax, okay? Now, because of that consumption tax, no, sino ang nag-consume? Si buyer, right? Kita ang nag-consume. So we are supposed to be paying for that consumption tax. Okay? And no, gintagaan lang ni BIR si sellers nga sila ang ma-file sang value added tax number 1 for ease of collection. Kasi compare mo, may isa ka business, then mayara sa 1,000 ka customers, eh di mas mahupush kolektahon kung dito lang makolekt si BIR sa 1 nga seller compared to those 1,000 nga buyers. Okay? So types of output VAT, ang regular nga 12% and zero rated VAT, okay, which is the 0%. And please take note that zero rated VAT is different from exempted. Okay? Tandaan nyo nga ang zero rated is different from exempted. Okay? Kasi sa exempted, you cannot claim input, wala output, wala input. But there is a zero rated ng mga sales or transactions. Wala sa sang output kasi zero siya, but there is an input that can be used as tax credit to other tax liabilities naton. Alright? Next, input VAT. Input VAT is the VAT paid by taxpayer on the domestic purchases from VAT suppliers. Take note, VAT suppliers on the importation of goods or services in the course of the business, right? Despite the absence or actual payment of VAT on purchase or import, input VAT may also be allowed by law as incentives to taxpayers, such as in the case of presumptive input VAT. So later on, no, i-discuss na what is a presumptive input VAT. Okay? Next, input VAT has rules on creditability. Not all paid input VAT is creditable against output VAT, no? Those allowed to be deductible against output VAT is called claimable input VAT, no? Or allowable or creditable input VAT. Right? And take note, ang pinaka tandaan nyo, it should be issued or backed up by invoices. Kasi kung wala, mabudlay na. In case nga i-audit ka mo ni BIR, wala ka mo ipakita nga parang evidence, no, on that input VAT. So i-disallow nila na yung mga input VAT nga gin-claim and you will be penalized on that. Okay? So next, VAT due. No, VAT due is at the end of each month, the input VAT is offsetted with the output VAT. So a positive VAT due is paid to the BIR and a negative is normally non-refundable but is carried over to the next succeeding months or the quarter. Right? So muna na kung positive or may ara kabalayaran, you should pay on the BIR, no? While kung negative, you can use that as claimable or tax credit sa imong mga succeeding months or kasi medyo mabudlay mag-refund, no? So it's better to ano na lang, to use that or to be carried over on the next month. All right? So pwede na siya. VAT reporting, no? Ang form na gamiton and the deadlines. Period covered, mo nila yung tandaan, no? On filing a VAT returns, duwa mo lang ka-form ang ginagamit, no? The 2550M, which is the monthly, that's why may M siya, and the 2550, I'm sorry, 2550Q, in which it is Q kay quarterly, no? Saan o kita ga-file, no? We only file, no? A month after nag-end atong specific period, no? Like for example on this first month of the quarter, let's say for example January, no? Ang January nga period covered, no? We will file a 2550M, no? A monthly VAT. Pero saan o kita mabayad or saan o ang deadline on that, no? We should pay or we should file, no, 20 days from the end of the month, or you have until February 20. Okay? You have until February 20 to pay for that January nga VAT returns. But in my case, no, sa akon nga mga clients, we don't usually pay on the 20th, no? Gina-inform ko na sila akon nga mga clients, no, that we will pay, no, a week before the deadline, or several days before the deadline, para in case nga may problem or in case nga may inog change, we can amend it immediately, no, with minimal penalties. Kasi there are times nga may maling-an kagid, no, like di mga ulihi nga hatag nga 2307, mga withholding from the government. There are times nga medyo delay, no, so medyo naliling-an. So ang instruction nako na sa ila is we should file, no, send your receipts, send your papers on me 2 weeks or a week before the deadline para maka-file kita maayo and hindi kita maglagas. Kasi VAT taxpayers do parang gina-require na gani subong, no, nga mag EFPS, no? EFPS is the bank automatic nga payment, no, directly from the bank ni BIR. No, kasi ang BIR subong they are trying, no, to give fast services sa aton nga mga taxpayers through the use of technology. That's why may mga EFPS na subong, no, nga ginagamit on paying the tax. Pwede ka man ka pay through GCash, no? Pwede ka man ka pay through different nga mga payment agencies, no? And in filing may ara kita ginatawag nga EBIR forms, no? It is an offline downloadable nga program nga automatic na nga-compute and naga-create sang form for us, the taxpayer, and mga practitioners para mas madasig mag-file. Alright? Okay, so let's continue. Sa second month of the quarter, edi February yan, di ba? So February. So saan o kita ma-file? No? Saan o kita ma-file on that? On or before, on or before March 20. Okay? Now, ito ang medyo tricky. For the quarter, no? Saan ma-end in quarter? It is on the month of March, no? But it covers January to March ka month. Okay? January to March ka month, no? So meaning kung mag-file kita quarterly VAT, no, 2550Q, we need to add all our sales and we need to add all our purchases and expenses, no, nga vatable for that 3-month period from January, February, and March. Okay? Kasi we are filing for the quarterly, so we need to accumulate that 3 months, no, nga aton nga form, and i-add then i-deduct then i-less atong mga tax payments naton from the first and the second month. Okay? So sa nung deadline niya sini April 25, no? Amo na siya ang mag-file. But deadline na niya akong gibutang ha. We can file before the deadline, no? As long as tapos na ang month. Like for example, tapos ng January 31, tapos ng February 28, or February 29, or tapos na ang March 31. Then after that, we can file immediately. No? As long as hindi na kita maglabot sa deadline. Once nga maglapaw kita, automatically we are penalized, no, by the BIR. Next. Sales to the government including the GOCCs, no? Ito medyo hindi masasang awat, but medyo balantayan, no? Especially if you are dealing with government, no? Naga-bidding ikaw or naga-supply ikaw for the government. So and vatable ka pa, you need to check your value added tax, okay? So the sales to the government and GOCCs is a vatable 12% normal, no? But the law requires the government agencies or GOCCs to withhold a final 5% final VAT, no? 5% final VAT on their purchases. All right? So the invoice sales or billing to the government or GOCCs will be deducted 5% final VAT, 5% final VAT based on their sales or receipts. The taxpayer will only collect the balance. Anong abot siling unsa ni? Right? So if we are dealing with the government, no, and we are a VAT taxpayer, for example, no, ang aton collectible sa government is 1,000, no? 1,000. VAT inclusive, okay? VAT inclusive, no? They will automatically deduct, no, 5% of that 1,000, right? That is for the withholding of the value added tax. May dugang pa na. Withhold pa na sila for the goods or services na gin-offer mo. It's either 1% or 2%. Okay? Nga ginadugang dira. So, in that case, no, we are only collecting 7% or bali less na sang 5%, no, atong sa government. And take note nga inang 5% nga final withholding VAT, no, should be used and should be deducted on filing that 2550M nga returns, given nga nag-summarize ikaw or nag-file ikaw sang summary of all withholding taxes. Then attach mo tanan nga parang 2307, no? Form 2307 in ang final withholding VAT. So gina-file mo na, i-compile, then i-deduct. Okay? So it's like treating a normal client na, okay? So the problem is that they already advanced, no, that 5% nga collectible sa imo. So meaning sina, di ba 12% ang VAT, di ba? 5% gin-claim na nila as input VAT. So you are expected nga ang imo nga supposed to be nga i-file, given nga wala ka other sales, government lang, dapat ang imo balayaran as part of that value added tax is only the 7%. No? Doon mo na siya. Kasi na less na nila ang 5% eh. But of course, we need to file for that VAT nga 12%, then less the 5. Hindi may 7% kaya nga daw parang needed pa nga i-file and bayaran sa government. Okay? Now, that 5% withheld tax shall be presumed as the actual VAT due. Actual VAT due of the taxpayer on the sale. No? So there would be no more VAT payable. So thus, the taxpayer has to adjust his claimable input VAT on that sale because the input VAT is effectively fixed or standardized by the government at 7%. The 7% claimable input VAT on sales of the government or GOCCs is referred to the standard input VAT. No? What does it mean? Okay, so to give it a simple term, no. Like for example, inang 1,000 nga sales in the government. We should file, di ba? Kung magbayad kita sa BIR, mabayad kita 12% ng VAT. So ang 12% niya sina is how much? 1,000 times 12 is 120, no? Amo na ang aton nga output VAT. All right, output. dito tayo, no? Output VAT nga 120. The government, no, will collect in advance as part of the withholding inang 5%. So meaning, inang 5% nga na, no, naging claim nila is automatically daw nga VAT due. Right? So 50. VAT due. Wala ka na supposed to be nga parang bayaran kasi gin-claim na nila in advance, no? Unless mayroon ka mga mixed transactions, no, mga mixed nga mga private sales, no. So ano na siya ang 7%? The 7% 7%. Inang 70 ko, no? 'Di ba may purchases ikaw, no? It should not ang VAT nga supposed to be i-claim mo on that specific nga government transaction should not exceed that 70 pesos nga input VAT. No, unless you have other you have other transactions, no? Like may mga private ikaw. Pero kung purely governmental imong transactions, you have no payment, no? Wala ka na bayaran in filing the monthly VAT because they already collected from you the 5%. Ano lang, for filing purposes and for compliance, you need to file lang, no? Pero zero na siya kay tungod gin-collect na in advance ni government sa imo, no? Unless mayara ka private sales ya, you need to compute for that separately. Doon mo na sang namin nila dire. All right? Next, zero rated sales, no? In principle, foreign consumption like export sales are non-vatable. No? In our current tax laws, they are subject to a 0% VAT or a zero-rated VAT, no, to VAT taxpayers. With a zero output VAT and claimable input VAT, the VAT would be negative. So anong ubrahon sina? It's either tax refund, which is mabudlay, or mostly nga ginagamit na as tax credit na lang, no? Tax credit against sa mga other tax payables. Okay? So if claim as tax refund, the taxpayer will pay it back in cash. Pero you have to prove first, no, sa BIR nga you are you are qualified to claim as a tax refund. So mabudlay pa nimo ikaw na gani may tax refund, ikaw pa may explain sa ila kung man kinahanglan kanila i-refund, no? Kaya mo na siyang ang common or ang parang treatment because if it is against the BIR, do parang you need to give them parang 100% assurance nga you are allowed to have the tax refund. Pero kung tax credit, apply mo na lang sa other, no? So mas madasig kung tax credit mo na lang. Kasi for magamit ka man Japon mabayad ka man na Japon on the next month, i-declaim mo na lang to kaysa makuha ka pa cash. Tama? Next is exempt sales, no? Or last na ta, no? When we say exempt sales, wala ka output, wala ka input, no? So the purposes on VAT, no, exempt sales are not non-vatable sales such as exempt sales or goods, no, services or properties or services specifically subject to percentage tax, no? And exempt sales are not subject to both output and input VAT, right? Now, notadaan nyo kagina atong ang presumptive input VAT, okay? So what is that presumptive input VAT, no? There are times nga sa next gali nga no, sa next nga discussion ko ni siya na. Pero tagaan lang kamo input on what is a presumptive input VAT, no? There are times, no, especially when you are converting from VAT to non-VAT, there are times nga pwede mo siya magamit, no? No, parang 2% yata, no, of the transition gali na siya, transitional input VAT. May ang presumptive input VAT naman niya like in producing a canned goods, no, dilata like sardinas, no. Hindi ka man maka-claim especially sa tomato sauce, di ba? Sa tomato sauce, yung ginagamit mo inang tomato nga gin-harvest from the farmers, no? may mga parang pwede ka ma-claim as presumptive input VAT kasi they are generally accepted eh, 'di ba? Ang mga farmers tantanan. But the government gives you parang some incentives in claiming yun ang ginatawag na presumptive input VAT. No, may pagani na mga transaction deemed sale, no? Para magamit siya as part of that output VAT. Okay? So mula sa presumptive input VAT, no? Inatagaan ka sang parang certain percentage ni BIR, 5% yata, no? On the goods, no, nga parang ginabaligya mo, no? Kasi hindi ka na maka-claim input VAT on that. Because muna generally exempted sila like the tomato sauce in a sardines, no? So ginatagaan ka presumptive input VAT. Alright, so that's all for this chapter, no? I hope you gained something and thank you for listening everyone. God bless us all. Thank you.